Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Bourbon with Friends, Bourbon Across America. I'm Paul, your host, joined by Connor, who cannot taste or smell anything right now. Connor, are you okay?
I think I'm okay, Paul. Thanks for asking. I'm having a great day. Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Do you have any other symptoms outside of the fact that you just can't taste or smell?
No, I'm coughing a little bit, and not to go off on a tangent, but hey, if you're a pharmacy, so I'm supposed to have an inhaler that is shipped from one pharmacy to another. If you're a pharmacy, please just have whatever it is in stock. I spent 2 days, and the issue is that the pharmacy isn't answering the phone, so don't have my inhaler yet. But anyways, other than that, Paul, I'm fantastic, and I'm happy to be here. Bourbon Across America.
And our guest today is one of our friends, another one, shocker from the Instagram world. You might know her online as Buffalo Bourbon Babe. We have Rachel with us. How's it going, girl?
Oh, it's good. I can't complain. I'm in Buffalo, obviously, the name. A lot of people think it's related to Buffalo Trace, but I actually live in Buffalo. We don't have a lot of snow here, which is nice, but we're supposed to get a snowstorm tonight. So my mood might change rapidly, but so far, so good.
So your mood will actually change from casually drinking to getting totally annihilated because you have nothing to do tomorrow.
Right. So, if it's
True.
really bad, I can't really travel for work, or I don't really want to travel for work. So, yeah, I guess the snow is going to really bank on how much I drink tonight.
Awesome.
Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. We're
So
supposed
are
to
you
get a snowstorm here this week as well.
Oof, no,
interesting?
not a fan.
So are you a devoted member of Bill's Mafia?
Oh, so I don't do sports. I'm going to preface that. Obviously, I support the Bills because I'm in Buffalo. I'm not jumping through tables, Bill Mafia level. But I do host tailgates every Sunday with a local bar here, which is a lot of fun. I've really started enjoying it now that I'm experiencing it more, but they're hardcore. And I'm not on that level yet, maybe next year. But we're doing great, I guess, from what I see. Yeah.
Interesting.
But you do bourbon and whiskey.
I do bourbon and whiskey. I don't jump through tables or set things on fire. Not yet.
Though. We haven't had enough drinks for that. Right.
I might jump through my dining room table tonight. I don't know.
Hey, you should actually have a post that's your psychometer, and we should all do this, right? How many drinks for you to before I tell someone to go fuck themselves, before I jump through a flaming table, all these things, all the way up to something weird. I don't know. What would be something really weird? I don't know. Getting your nipples pierced and chained to your ass. That might be the weirdest thing.
I guess again, it depends on how many drinks, but Bill's Mafia people, they're hardcore to the fact that they could be sober. They will literally shotgun a beer, set a table on fire, and just jump in it. And I'm here for that energy. I'm always down to shotgun and get wild, but I'm not trying to cut myself on fire. Not yet. Again, the meter though. Gotta take
it's like one of those wrestling matches back in the day when it was Undertaker versus Kane and the whole around the ring was on fire. I think they called it an Inferno match. That's what Bill's Mafia reminds me of. They remind me of Undertaker Kane circa 1998 Inferno match.
Oh, hardcore. And again, I would love to be on that level, but I'm I don't know how to get on that level. I haven't been there yet. I might get there next year, but this year we're not wilding. Not yet.
It's kind of I have shit to do tomorrow. I'm pretty much not going to the hospital with 3rd-degree burns on my ass because I jumped through a fucking table.
Right. And no one, the thing is at the hospital would even question it. They'd be like, oh, okay, there's a Bills game. All right, cool. No one's going to question it or think it's weird.
That's what's really unfortunate.
That's the worst part of it. No one's weirded out by this.
Tell all of the listeners what you actually do though in the bourbon world. You actually don't just drink bourbon, you actually live the life.
So, fun fact about me, I am the director of business development for a distillery. We currently do not do bourbon, but we do a barrel-aged gin. So essentially my role is I oversee the overhead of the distillery, day-to-day operations. I do sales, I do events. I'm a brand ambassador for them. Previous to this, I was with Devil's River Whiskey for a minute until COVID happened. Same thing, territory sales manager. Before that, Black Button. In between, Iron Smoke. I've worked for a lot of distilleries. My current one, we do coffee liqueur, we do a lot of gin. It's a nice switch up from bourbon. Like, granted, I love whiskey, but it's nice when you can kind of separate your hobbies but still be in the industry. So honestly, the entire day kind of revolves around spirits and, you know, doing tastings and meeting with accounts, and it's fun. It's different, but it's fun.
So what actually got you into wanting to be in well, let's just say in the spirits industry first, and then kind of what got you into whiskey?
Yeah, so spirits industry, when I was 22-ish, I was bartending. Of course, every 21, 22-year-old is a bartender. One of my friends actually managed a company that did promotions. Jack Daniels was one of those, Deep Eddy. So I actually ended up being like one of the Deep Eddy girls in Buffalo. I did Jack Daniels. We did Three Olives back in the day, like the Loopy, like that kind of stuff. So way back. But I was a promotional model for pretty much my entire 20s. It was fun. It was great. Now, when I met with reps that were essentially running these events, I was like, that's a really cool job. Like, you get to manage this whole bar, do this event, hang out, everything. So I was like, I want to do that. I applied blindly to a distillery in Rochester, which is like the next city over from Buffalo. Got accepted to be the on-premise, which is like bars and restaurants manager, which I'm like, I am not qualified for this. I don't know what I'm doing. Now, they were a bourbon distillery. I did not drink bourbon. I'm like, so I don't know what to do. So my counterpart was like, listen, you have to try bourbon. And I was like, I've bartended, I've tried Jack, I've tried Crown, I'm set. And he's like, no.
You've tried some shitty things, now try real bourbon.
Right. He's like, so we're gonna go to the Oak Stave, which is still one of my accounts, which is kind of cool. He's like, we're gonna try some bourbon. And I'm like, I'm all set, it's 1 o'clock. He's like, again, no, we're gonna try bourbon.
There's a difference between you and back in the day.
Oh yeah.
1 o'clock p.m. I'm like, it's late. What are you talking about? Should have started 3 hours ago.
Jaeger bombs. It's 1 o'clock. My first pour he got me, he's like, we're gonna ease into this. He got me a Woodford double oaked, and I was like, oh, I don't want this. He's like, just smell it. He's like, smell it and take it all in. He's like, what are you smelling? I'm explaining it to him. He's like, okay, take a sip. I'm like, this is awful. He's like, let your palate adjust, take another sip. And I'm like, okay, this isn't horrible. And he's like, no. So I don't even remember what the second thing was that he got, but I was like, okay, this isn't bad. The next week I went to the distillery and I got to actually make the distillate with the distiller. And I'm like, okay, this is actually kind of cool. And we got to dump a barrel. And I'm like, wow, like this is kind of wild. So I started reading about it and I'm like, wow, the different mash bills, everything's so different depending on the climate, the char of the barrel, what kind of wood it is, what kind of oak they're using. I kind of love this. And then it kind of like spiraled into like, all right, like I want to be more in this industry. Then I ended up being at one of my accounts. I ended up offering to buy a stranger drinks. We had conversation. Turns out he was the Northeast territory manager at Devil's River. And he's like, I want to hire you. And I'm like, I don't know what kind of girl you think I am, but I'm not hire. And he's like, no. I manage a distillery out of San Antonio. And I was like, okay, cool. Which that job turned into like me going to Whiskey Fest in New York City, which was one of the most amazing like experiences I've ever done, because you got to try so many things, bourbons I've never thought I'd imagine to try. COVID kind of ruined that. But, I got to work for Iron Smoke out of Rochester, which is a cool little distillery. And now I'm running a distillery, which is, again, kind of wild to me. I'm like, wow, so I run this and I don't feel qualified, but we're doing good.
So the thing that is really consistent about doing these is like, oh, I tried bourbon and it was Jack, it was Jim, it was Crown, and I hated it. It's literally like it's so funny that what in the world, like how did all of us go through that phase? Like it's the one, and still like, oh, let's go buy 200 bottles of this shit now.
Yeah, because honestly, like thinking back when I bartended at this shitty underground bar on Chippewa, which is like the trashiest little stretch. At the time it was. Now it's nicer. but I bartended at this underground bar called Sub-Zero, and like the owner loved Crown. And all I could think of was like taking it and like gagging. And I'm like, this is awful. And sometimes we do like Red Stag and I'm like, this is awful. And now I'm like, So it's a little bit different when you're just doing shots repetitively and not really tasting. As you're sipping on it, you get the flavor profile, you can pick out tasting notes. But yeah, Crown was my gateway to all of this, and bartending at a bar that I don't remember most nights being at.
All it takes when you're drinking whiskey is, instead of just throwing shots back and throwing, like something like Jameson or Jack Daniels back, all it takes is someone to say, wait a second, tell me what you taste. And then I feel like once someone is asked that, like a flip is like a light, like a flip is a switch is flipped, not a flip is switched. A flip is switched.
A flip is switched.
A flip is switched, right? And you're like, wait a second, it's not just burning pain. There's actually a little bit of vanilla or a little bit of spice or a little bit of whatever it may be.
About Jack
and
still?
I don't know if we're talking about.
I was talking about no. I was gonna make a joke.
We're talking about Crown Vanilla.
Yeah.
We're talking about anything really that's like that's how the switch is made. It's like, oh, wait a second, don't just knock this back. Actually take a sip of it real quick and tell me what you taste, like you did with the wood Trouble Oaked. And then all of a sudden, I think it changes a lot of people's perspective on exactly what they're drinking and not just something that gets thrown back at, 11:30 at a bar.
And that's kind of like one of the things I tell a lot of people is anytime, like whether I'm doing a tasting with my product or like I've been hosting tastings, like picking my favorite bourbons, you can also kind of put tasting notes in people's heads when you have them sip it and you're like, do you taste, the vanilla? Do you get the toffee on this? And you're kind of putting that in someone's head. So even if it was Jack Daniels and someone would have been saying, hey, do you taste this? You're going to kind of pick it apart, and in your head, you're going to be like, yeah, I do taste that. So I think that's one of the other things with bourbon that people don't realize is you can kind of tell somebody what they're tasting and they're going to be like, yeah, I totally get that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what took this though? Like, how did you get in just obsessed, right? Because most people don't have 200 plus bottles.
No.
Normal people, you took this from, hey, I started getting a job and now I'm trying it. And now all of a sudden you're addicted to it. Like, where was that transition? What sparked it?
Honestly, like I'm a very obsessive person. Like I spin pretty much 5 or 6 days a week. I go to the gym a lot. When I fixate on something, I'm like, I want everything. It's like all or nothing to me. So it turned into the hunt of finding things. And I like hunting for things. And it's like, okay, I found this, what can I get it for without paying? Because again, I'm in New York State, so we're not a controlled state. We are a secondary market. But it turned into, I liked finding these bottles. I liked seeing them in the wild and I'm like, oh my gosh, no one realizes it's here. I'm going to take it. But over the past 2 years, it's gotten very difficult for me to do that. It's been nice working in my industry because if there are things that I want, I can kind of get them without having to hunt. But it was more for me all right, I have this really cool collection. I have something that I can kind of share with people, but also it's mine. Versus, oh, well, vodka's vodka. That's my biggest thing. I'm all my friends are vodka drinkers. So I invite them over. I'm like, make you a cocktail. Let me make you a New York sour. You're going to try this and you're not going to hate it. You're not going to taste anything in it at all. So that was my biggest thing. And also I like finding bottles and being okay, I'm going to go to the whiskey bar here and be like, hey, can I try that? And can you tell me about it? I like educating myself and owning things that I find out about. And when I don't know anything about it, I'm like, oh, this is a cool bottle. I'm just going to buy it. And then you find out it's worth X amount on secondary. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. This is great.
I'm going to drink all of it slower now because I may never find it again.
Crazy with it. So that's why there are certain bottles my biggest pet peeve with my page is people being like, open them all up. And I'm like, why the fuck would I open up all of these bottles for no fucking reason that I clearly am never going to find again? Especially being in the state that I'm in, I was at one of my accounts today and I saw a William Bluer Weller for $1,700.
Nope.
Like it was a bourbon museum, clearly, because it was behind glass and no one's buying it. So there was a nice museum there. Great, but it's like being in the state that I'm in, we don't have a controlled market. You can put anything for whatever price you want to, and you know someone's going to buy it because they're not going to know any better. And that's why we have a secondary market, because people just continuously give into it.
We, you know, it's, I have bottles that I haven't opened up now, and I'm just, you know, you wait for that special occasion. You kind of know, right? You know, when you're with someone or you're somewhere or people come over and it's that right person or that right group of people, and you look at that bottle and it's almost like it tells you, all right, I'm ready.
Like,
and
this
it's weird
moment. Like, I agree completely. I'm like, I'm not just gonna open it up to sit by myself on the couch, like watching some bullshit, because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna open that Pappy 12, like, you know, just for funsies. Like, that's my biggest pet peeve, though, is like, I'm a part of a few bourbon groups and everyone hates me in them. And this, like, in Buffalo, I'm in a few. And every time I post something I find, everyone's like, when are you gonna open it? I'm like,
whenever the hell I want to open it, it's
like,
my bottle.
Yeah, I paid for it.
I want to.
I have like the other thing. I think a lot of people look like you're an attractive female, and so most people think that you're just thirst trapping with your bottles, right? Like, it's a thing. It's not accurate.
Fair assumption, though. It is.
Yeah, it is. But I think it's the incorrect assumption too, especially in the bourbon world, and that, you know, Bourbon with Friends has kind of like made a point about this many times. Like, just because you're an attractive female doesn't mean that you're just trying to thirst trap people to follow your page. Like, you actually are in this, you drink it. But it's kind of like the same. My question would be to somebody else, like, if you had almost 300 bottles of whiskey, are you going to open up all 300 bottles? No, you're fucking insane. It's not how it happens, right? Like, I have, like, you can see back here, like, some of my stuff's not open. Like, some of it is and some of it isn't. I'm waiting for that right moment, for that right time to open something, because that's the way whiskey is. Now, I have bottles, like, if you could see like what's in front of me, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, I've got 5 bottles, including this thing that's sitting here that's open. It's just the way it goes. You don't have to open up all your bottles. Chill out, dudes. It's not that big of a deal.
Where I'm at, and everyone's always like, what's your biggest pet peeve? And I'm like, it's people that want you to open things for no reason. And like, one of my best friends was home from California last week, and she was like, can I ask you a question? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, why do you always post funny things about that Blanton's bourbon? Like, what's going on with that? And I'm like, do you want to try it? She's like, no, it's not even open. I'm like, girlfriend, you want to try this? I will crack it open. I do not care. I don't care. It's not that important to me. She wouldn't let me, but I'm like, that's the moment, though, that you're like, you want to know why it's so funny? I'm going to let you try it, and you can tell me why it's funny, because people search for it and it's so sought after. And like, it's great juice. I'm not going to say it's not, but it's nothing, you know, to write home about. There's better.
John Wick made Blanton's what Blanton's is today.
Yeah.
That's what caused that crazy fad, you know. And now it's kind of through that. I kind of, you know, we got to get Keanu Reeves on the show. I feel like that's a thing now. We're gonna get Keanu on the show and just be
dark.
Do what?
I'm on the After Dark show.
Oh no,
he's not like Keanu's such a calm dude.
One of the best dudes on the planet.
You know who I think would be really funny on an After Dark show? Terry Bradshaw, because that dude says reckless things.
I bet he seems like you get him going and he doesn't stop.
I'm trying to think of all the guests that I've interviewed over the last year, a little over a year, who would probably be the best like After Dark person. And I guess I'm going from like the celebrity realm.
Yeah.
Well, I consider Rachel a Twitter celebrity, so
honestly, I followed somebody on Instagram the other day. They're like, wow, you're my first celebrity to follow me. I'm like, you realize I'm just a normal human, right? Like, I don't do anything cool.
Rachel followed me, and so my Who Gives a Damn has like, I think I have like 30 followers on Twitter, and I tweet about just like Star Wars and MCU and stuff.
I unfollowed a few times because I tweeted about the Boba Fett, and everyone's like, and I'm like, bro, you realize my whole sleeve is Star Wars? Like, my cat's names are Ben Solo. Like, come on.
Oh, that's awesome.
People
I
have to.
catch it on one arm and I have Star Wars on the other. Like, let me live
That's
my.
awesome.
We cannot talk about bourbon 365 days a year. Like it
That's
just
what I'm
doesn't happen. Like
No.
first off, you need to get TikTok because I feel like you would be reckless on TikTok and it would be funny.
That's why I don't have one because I feel like I would I wanted to make a TikTok, so I posted on my Facebook. I'm like, I'm gonna make a TikTok of all the stupid shit guys say to me every single day of my. And I'm like,
Awesome.
oof, that might not be a
No,
good.
do a Star Wars bourbon parody TikTok account, and and Connor and I will duet the shit out of it
Oh, every single time.
every time.
I literally have custom Star Wars cosplays. Like I go to I cosplay Star Wars. Like that's my life. I love it so much. And are like you're weird.
I'll wear a cowboy hat and like ride a horse while like duetting your
Are you
fucking
not
Star Wars
trying?
video.
Are you not trying to make money off TikTok? Like that is just money.
No.
That's dollar signs.
I
Yeah.
know.
You become you could become a creator and join their creator port or whatever, and you can get money.
Bourbon soon, and they're like, "Hey, if we send these to you, how much money do you want to review them?" I'm like, "Nothing. Just send me the bourbon." It's like, "What the fuck are you doing, dude?" I don't know. Like, I'm not that.
We're not in it. We're not doing this for the money. We're doing this because we love it.
Like, I just think it's fun. Like, I like having fun because day to day, like, I have some accounts that I can go in. My one account, this is really weird. Again, we're getting into Bourbon After Dark, but we always talk about meth. We've never done meth, but it always comes up. I don't know why or how, but like I have accounts that I go into and I'm like, yeah, that girl outside's doing meth. And like we talk about that. And I have other accounts that I'm like, yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. Whatever you need, sir. So yeah, like
Nice.
the fun side of it because I don't get that often. I get very like, you know, I go in prim and proper. I wear, you know, my lockhouse jacket and I'm like, hi, I'm here. Hello, it's me. Again.
Yeah, you're a very like, and what most people might not get from your page. You're like a very serious professional, you know, kick ass, take names type. Like
that's me. Yeah,
you're Monday through Friday,
all day.
9 to 5. Yeah.
Like I was telling one of my accounts today, we had a nice sit down and I'm like, listen, you know, like some days I work 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Some weeks I work 97 hours a week. Some weeks I work Monday through Sunday. Like that's the name of the game in this industry. If you want to build an empire, you have to give it your all. I like to do that, but I'm also like, you know, I like to have fun outside of that, but I'm not like, again, common misconception. I feel like any female in this industry, everyone's like, oh, it's because you're attractive. That's why you sell. And I'm like, honestly, in sales, so you sell yourself. If people like you, they're going to buy your product. Has nothing to do with how great it is. They're going to
listen. I don't care how attractive you are. If the juice is shitty, I don't give a fuck. I'm not drinking your stuff. Like you could be the hottest girl in the world, and if you send me a sample,
if you hate my coffee, I will riot. It's good, and I'm sending you both one. You're getting a coffee.
I cannot wait to try it.
I can't wait to not taste it. Coffee to me right now tastes like hot, bitter water.
You can wait. You can wait.
Our coffee is caffeinated. So it's OG for Loco, but coffee.
I'm excited because
all right.
So I'll tell you, when it starts to get warm here, like the first warm weekend after winter, I throw a big shindig at my house. I smoke more meat than anyone could ever eat, but
I'm inviting myself.
Come on. I'll invite you. You don't even have to invite yourself. I'll invite you.
I'll be either way.
Okay. But like I'll make like beef ribs and brisket and wings, and it's like an all day thing. So it starts at like 8 or 9 in the morning. Well, you feel a little stupid drinking straight whiskey at 8 or 9 in the morning. So it would start with like bourbon cream or something like that in coffee. So that's like where that's going to be really good. Then we make this thing called Better Than Sex biscuits. All right. These biscuits will make your mouth have an orgasm. I smoke a sirloin steak, which is weird. You don't smoke steak. I smoke a sirloin steak for about 30 minutes till it's almost rare. Make eggs, season the eggs, take biscuits, like homemade biscuits, and then so there's a cannoli cream coffee creamer, and you take that and mix it with pepper.
I drink that every morning.
And you mix it with pepper, and then you put it on top of the biscuits. And then you mix the steak in with the eggs, and then you have smoked bacon, you have Gouda cheese, and the spicy cheese, and I always forget the name of it, but I always know what it is. And then pimento cheese, and you put it all on a biscuit and eat it. and that's how you start your day with about 4 million calories to start the day.
That's-
And then you eat.
Nice.
So, like, honestly, the coffee liqueur. So, Buffalo Trace's bourbon cream, I like it a lot. There's a local one. I used to work for them, Black Button. They have an awesome bourbon cream too. Mixing our coffee liqueur with the bourbon cream is like the move. It's the way to go. Or you can do a revolver with it and do half bourbon, half coffee. It's phenomenal. That's like been my go-to because I'm like, how do I make Lock House bourbon whiskey rye without being bourbon whiskey rye? Or we have an Amaro, which you can do a Black Manhattan with a rye. Very good as well.
Yeah.
I'm appreciate Amaros. I never did before because I'm like, this tastes like a black licorice, fennel, anise, not for me.
That would be the thing that would get me. I don't like licorice.
Yeah.
So it's ours is a little bit sweeter than a traditional Amaro. But because I don't like black licorice either. I love Twizzlers. Like I literally keep them in my pockets. My distiller laughs at me. Anytime I do a tasting, I send him a snap. It's like me pulling like Twizzlers out of my pocket or goldfish. She's like, why do you always have snacks in your pocket? Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm always
hungry.
like, I'm hungry. Okay.
You're the perfect soccer mom already.
Yeah. Like I'm soccer without being a soccer mom. Like, and also I'm not sharing with any kids ever. So like, get your own. Thank you.
If you come visit though, you have to share with my 2-year-old. Like that's the rule.
See that like my niece, she's 20 months and like she gives me goldfish all the time. Like she drops them on the floor and then she hands them to me and I still eat them. And I'm just like, oh, my heart. No, like I like you so much. So I will share with like tiny munchkins, but like the older ones that are like 9 or 10, I'm like, get fucked.
Oh,
like,
yeah. Bye.
Yeah.
Go get a plate and do it yourself.
like, go get it yourself.
Go get a job.
I now understand why parents want another kid because then they're going to hit like a certain age and you're just like, I want another one of you because you suck.
Because now this is shit. So I need one again, and you can fend for yourself. That's like, no. Again, I'm like, everyone asks me, like, when are you having kids? I'm like, I'm not. But thank you. I appreciate that. And I have a career in the liquor industry, and I cannot imagine myself pregnant, selling booze. That's weird to me.
You never know. It could be a thing.
There's like probably a fetish for that. I'm not gonna lie to you.
We're really walking that line of where we could go down some real fun rabbit holes, but that's for another episode.
After dark.
That's another episode.
So like when I worked for Black Button, one of the reps was pregnant. She was amazing at what she did, but I'm like, I can't imagine like going into an account and being like, hey, I'm gonna taste this with you. Clearly you can't because you're pregnant. Well, you're not supposed to, I assume you shouldn't. But I'm like, this isn't for me. So everyone's like, when are you getting pregnant? I'm like, I'm probably gonna get a puppy. So
there you go.
I don't know. Puppy depends on what kind of puppy you get. You get a boxer puppy, you might rather actually have a kid.
Oh yeah, no, we had a German Shepherd puppy for 9 hours. We don't have it anymore.
Ooh.
That was a mistake.
Connor, what's wrong with you? You
Okay.
see Connor yawn there?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I'm sick. I'm sorry.
You see Connor just yawn. Now he's gonna blame the yawn on COVID.
You're not coming to
done that off camera. I'm sorry. That was very unprofessional.
You're not invited to Bourbon with Friends After Dark anymore.
Connor, I'm gonna unfollow you on Twitter.
No, don't, please. Please, I have 33 followers. I can't have 32.
Well, you're about to have 32.
God, man.
I
Blew it.
But you're gonna be cancel culture. No one's gonna follow you.
Ah, man.
What are your favorite kind of what's your top 3 favorite bourbons right now?
Okay, one forever will always be Eagle Rare. I don't know why.
Friends.
I fucking love Eagle Rare. It's amazing. I really enjoy it. You can't go wrong with it. I have like 2 store picks of it. I have a 3.75. I have a 1.75 just because why not? I love Eagle Rare. 2, I really enjoy Stag Junior. I only have the 16. I hated it at first. I'm like, this is way too hot. I do not enjoy it. Really like it though. Like it's growing on me. I tried it on Christmas. I'm like, oof, okay, I like this. 3rd, everyone's gonna hate me for this, but I really like Wild Turkey 101.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's a classic bottle.
People shit on me for that a lot. They're like, there's better value bottles. I'm like, okay, cool. I like it. It's cheap. It's readily available. To be honest, in this house, when we make old fashions or Manhattans, we use Old Granddad 114. Or
Yes. 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 Real
and let
bourbon people know Old Granddad 114 might be the best base for an old fashioned, period,
Yeah.
hands down.
Yes, that or the Sagamore Double Oak Rye. Fantastic.
Ooh,
Yes. Yes.
my
So
girl right
I
here.
have to tell you, we are very, very close. We're getting down there with this guy, but he has been a staple for old fashioned. But
I haven't made it with an old fashioned yet, but I might have to try that.
try it with an old fashioned. Like it's actually fantastic because I was dead set. I'm like, I'm gonna do the Woodford Double Oaked Old Fashioned. Pat's like, no, try this. And I'm like, this is good. This is good. But you know, like we've done old fashions with Angel's Envy, the rum cask rye. It's been great. And that's my other thing is like people that get mad when you use high-end bourbons, ryes, whiskeys for cocktails. I'm like, dude, you fucking like what you like. There's nothing wrong with it. Do what you want to, do what makes you happy. That's where I'm at with
I made this thing I called a dirty Oreo shake, and I used Old Forester single barrel store pick for it. And people were like, why the fuck would you do that? Like, because I thought it was fun.
because I can. Because I have it. It's readily available and I want to do it. That's kind of my answer.
I had 3 bottles of it. I cannot help it that you can find 0.
That's like, again, when people get shitty, they're like, you drink Eagle Rare like water. And I'm like, I'm sorry that you can't find it, but I can. And also, like, to be fair, it's not that expensive of a bottle.
They make it fucking 10 miles from my house, and I can't find it that easily here either. Like, that's the dumb thing. Like, you have to understand allocations. It's just the way it is.
People don't get that at all. And like,
no.
I mean, especially in New York, like I go into stores and again, I saw a William LaRue Weller for $17.99 today. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, this is what we're doing right now.
Didn't I reply to that story? Fuck that.
Yep, you did. And I'm just like, wow, Bourbon Museum, we're fucking doing it. And again, that's fine. Like someone's gonna buy it, and you know they're going to. That's
Some
fine.
rich bastard will come in and not care and buy it, and there it is.
Someone's not, or they're not gonna know any better. They're gonna be like, oh, this is great, and they have the disposable income. And my thing is, people message me a lot, and they're like, what's too much to pay for a bourbon? I'm like, here's my answer to that. You can make more money if you come across a bottle that means a lot to you. It's marked up a bit. Fucking buy it. Like,
mine is about 25%. That's about as high as I'll go.
That's kind of where I'm at. But I mean, if it's something that really means a lot to you, you really want that bottle, fucking buy it. Like, who cares? You're going to make more money. If you can afford it and it's not going to affect your cost of living like day to day, who the fuck cares? Nobody cares. Right. But that's like the big, a lot of these bourbon groups I'm in are like, oh, how much did you pay for it? And I'm like, what the fuck do you care? What do you care? Where'd you get that from? And how much did you pay? Like, bitch, if you have to fucking ask, you can't afford it. Number one.
Well, I think a lot of people are saying that because they think that you actually didn't get the bottle and someone's just probably just paying you to take a picture with it.
So that's like another big thing is a lot of people think like I don't pay for bottles or I get shit for free. I'm like, I have had a few sent to me, which I'm not gonna lie about, but the majority, like
you're not getting Albert T. Lee shipped to you.
Like literally nobody's sending me this and saying, hey, take a picture with it for free. No one's like
that doesn't happen.
But no, or like, and again, those are the people that are like, we'll open it up.
Well,
like
I think those are the people that just don't understand like what it is, right? Like, I mean, there are accounts out there that have, from a follower perspective, this isn't a knock on you, but they're like, you know, in the tens and tens of thousands that are bourbon accounts. They're not getting that shit for free.
No,
like you'll get stuff for free, but you're not getting Elmer T and, you know, Old Fitz and stuff like the cancer bottles for free.
And that's my biggest thing is people are like, well, you don't pay for it. Or like one of the guys in my group was like, it must be nice to be an attractive female. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, I still.
You should be like, you should have just said it must be nice to be attractive. Hard stop.
Sure, I'm sorry you can't relate, but maybe someday. Cool. And I'm like, my dude, I still paid for this. I still found it. Like, have I gotten offered bottles because of my job? Yes, I have. And I think everybody knows that. If you're in sales and you're in the distilled spirits industry, you're going to have a leg up, especially if you make, a great relationship with an account. But there's also the fact of I have accounts I go to and I'll spend a lot of money. I buy, the old granddad, anytime they have barrel picks, like I'll buy one of them just to have it. So of course, when they have allocations come in, they're like, hey, are you looking for something? And I'm like, yeah, I'm looking for this. And they're like, hey, I have it. Do you want it? Cool. Great. You're only marking it up 10%. Great. I'll take it.
Yeah.
But it's not walk in. They're like, hey, do you want this?
You got to build relationships. I mean, it's not easy, especially in some places like Kentucky where they just don't care.
No.
In other states, that's how you get it. You got to go buy the barrel picks and do all that stuff to get the good stuff that you actually want.
And I mean, like, again, I've had accounts too that like one of my accounts like, hey, do you want to do a barrel pick with us? And I'm like, do you really want me to? Because I feel like you guys have done a lot and like, I'm not on your level of what you like. And they're like, yeah, no, it'd be cool. I have cool accounts like that. And I have other accounts that are like, cool, I'll take a case. All right, have a good life. That's where we're at. Like, it's very different, and especially being in this industry, it's not what people think it is.
Yeah. Well, Ray, this has been really fun. This has been a good episode.
It's been a great one, yeah.
Tell everyone where they can find you on the Instagram world.
On the Instagram world, I am at Buffalo Bourbon Babe. Again, Buffalo like the city, not like Buffalo Trace. I have no affiliation. People think I do. I wish I did, but I don't. So just Buffalo Bourbon Babe. Same thing with Twitter. That's what we're doing. So yeah.
Yeah. What is the one off the wall whiskey you would recommend to somebody who might be new?
Again, I'm always like Eagle Rare. That's like my go-to, but honestly,
one that's easier to get, like a more everyday one.
Wild Turkey 101. Like, I'm gonna say that I was so against it, and then I tried it, and like even New Year's Eve, my brother-in-law did a blind tasting with me. One was the Old Forester 1910 Wild Turkey and not Smoke Wagon. That one was Blanton's. Could pick them out, and I'm like, I like the Wild Turkey. Always try Wild Turkey. It's readily available. It's cheap. It's fantastic. I know it's not Blanton's, but it's good.
I feel that.
It's no, what was I calling it? Oh, I did a poll on New Year's Eve. I'm like, do you guys want OG Loco or Pony Boy whiskey? And people are like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, if you don't want OG Four Locos, like, get off my page. Because that's what we're doing.
I'm pretty sure I wasn't active on New Year's Eve. I did a 2-hour live with Connor.
Yeah, we were on live for a while.
I didn't see, I literally kept like checking lives because I was trying to show my brother-in-law. I'm like, yeah, there's some really cool accounts, and I'm showing him. He's like,
oh, you missed it because we were live.
Yeah, I did.
Oh yeah, I got drunk.
So he was like, these people aren't fun. I'm like, no, I promise you, people are fun. He's like,
you would add fun on our live because it was oof. I didn't
talk about after dark.
That way. Yeah, it was after dark for about 2.5 hours. And I kept telling Connor, we went New Year's Eve. We went Happy New Year's on East Coast. Then we hit Central. And then we got real damn close to Pacific. And I looked at Connor. I was like, Connor, we're not staying on till Pacific time. But I said that like after Eastern time. And then it was like 2:15, 2:20 in the morning. And Connor goes, we're going to make Pacific time. And I was like, all right, I'm going to bed, guys. See you later. Bye.
Yeah. We were talking to a girl from Scotland, who's been up. It was 7:30 in the morning.
7:30 in the morning. She'd been partying the entire night and stayed up.
I literally fell asleep like at 11:30. I fell asleep face first on my couch because I kept doing blind tastings to my brother-in-law. Fell asleep face first, woke up frontal, was like, fuck this, and went to bed.
We went live at like 11:45.
Well, I'm here for it. I was trying to show my brother-in-law really good pages, and he's like, none of these are fun. I'm like, oof, okay, cool.
Next time, just tell your brother-in-law, watch your page, and we'll go live we'll all go live. Then we'll get like Bender to do live or somebody like that, and then you'll see recklessness.
It's gonna get so weird.
We got to get Lee on a podcast.
We do.
Bender, Lee.
Yeah, let's get Lee on a podcast.
Lee would do a good after dark episode.
So I feel like everyone we have on, especially Bourbon Across America, would be a good after
Everyone
dark
wants
episode.
to do Bourbon After Dark now. I've never seen more questions I didn't even post all of them. Like some of them I just was like, ooh. I don't know if we should.
It's too spicy.
It was, yeah. Anyway. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. This is fun. And remember, bourbon with friends can change the world.
Let's go.